Hello, everybody. Let's go. What a big week. Welcome to the sixth episode of the Chalk Talk podcast presented to you by capwizard.io. Joining me is our co host, Pans, and I'll turn it over to you shortly. But also, we have our buddy and producer, Justin, on here with us. So, exciting week. Tons of exciting news and updates around the hockey world. We will dive into that without a doubt. But first and foremost, want to turn it to both of you. How the hell are you, Pans? How the hell are you, Justin? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Happy to be here for another week on Chalk Talk with you, buddy. Extremely excited for this NHL season to be starting, and honestly, very excited for this episode we have, but excited for the upcoming weeks to get more regular episodes.
Hell yeah.
Hey guys, producer Justin here. Sorry, we didn't pay the music guys, so you had to hear me do the intro music today. But man, what a journey it has been the last 5, 6 episodes now. It's been a pleasure to watch you guys grow as hosts. Super excited for the in-season talk that we have because really, I mean, we're just getting started, right?
You know,
Justin couldn't have said it better myself. And Pans, like you, I can't wait to get into the season. We will definitely get right underway here. Tons of content to cover. This week, there has been a lot of things since our last podcast. Some of the things included wrapping up of the preseason, some exciting players and games out in Prague with the New Jersey Devils playing Buffalo twice. And quite a few big signings around the league. We've been waiting on the Swayman deal. We got details. We have a breakdown. We have some contract grades to provide to you all. And then we're going to be doing a little bit different, end to each episode moving forward here. And we'll be sharing that down the line. Again, we do have a lot of content to share with you all season. We are going to be bringing in some new and improved different segments to the episodes, some guest speakers, some different takes. But we do look forward to also providing some betting opportunities and hot takes and cold takes for you all to strategize as you bet on hockey throughout the year. But without further ado, let's get into it, Pants. First thing we have going on is Jeremy Swayman. So much up and down. We'll say it's been a roller coaster to say the least. I got to turn it over to you. I got to hear your opinions on this. What's going on? How you feeling about all this?
it was one of those things I knew it was going to get done, not just from a Boston sports fan bias type, but Swayman wanted to be a Bruin. So overall, I knew the money was there and that they would be able to work out a deal, but boy, that was stressful. Everything about that was not fun, and quite frankly, it didn't help the team. So wish talks would have gone a little smoother, but still very happy he signed. Honestly, 8 by 8.25, I think is a great contract for Swayman. I'm going to go with my grade right off the bat, 9.1. I'm going
Damn.
high on this one.
Wow.
Swayman is one of the best young goalies in the league at 25, 6'3", but moves like he's a lot smaller than that, still takes up a lot of the net. Everyone will argue, at least a lot of people will, he's still unproven. He's under 150 NHL games. But if you're able to put up a 93.3 save percentage through 12 NHL playoff games, I think you're pretty much proven at that point. I think this contract is well deserved. And quite frankly, I think it's a contract a little bit down the line that we're going to be looking at and saying, wow, this is kind of a steal for the Bruins. He's worth a good bit more than that.
Mhm.
So I'm sticking with a 9.1 for the contract grade. Very happy they got it done.
Hmm. All right. Like that prediction, like that thought. I'm going to break down a little differently. So it was a roller coaster from both ends. It sounds like there was not as much cohesiveness between the conversations with the agent and the team, as well as just, I think there was a lot of gray area. So first and foremost, that will factor into my grade. From a value stance, Swayman is huge. We understand. You just spouted off his postseason stats. He's proven his worth. That said, 8 years is very long for any goalie, right? So that is the commitment from the Bruins to say our future is in your hands. We're leaning on you, as we know with the Ullmark decision in the offseason. They wanted to sign him. We actually just saw the first game where Corpusalo did not look too exciting in net for the Bruins. So it's really exciting to have a guy like Swayman ready to go. Now that said, Corpusalo is a great goalie, and there's a chance he makes that comeback. It's the first game of the season. We're not looking into it too much, but from a grading stance, man, 8 by 8.25 for this goalie. While I do believe he is worth higher than 9 million, I do see the entirety of this contract negotiations as no short of a clusterfuck. There's no other way to describe this. I haven't actually heard of a messier situation in a while when it comes to this. I think there was some interesting situations, as you said, with the team, and hopefully that can be better, and they can get behind that, and the locker room's ready to go. And I'm sure that's the case. My grade will be an 8.5. It's going to be under 9, just because I just think that needed to be better. I think it needed to be better from everyone's angle. I'm not pointing fingers at who's at fault. I think everyone needs to be more transparent in that situation. So I'm going to grade a little under, but the value's still there. The value's still there, and as you said, he could be overvalued, especially with the cap growing. Give it 2 3 years, that 8.25 could be a joke. It really could.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Did you want to cover Ullmark? Because that actually just dropped today, and ooh, it's juicy because it's easy and fun to compare now because it's the same AAV. So over to you for Ullmark there, bud.
I feel like we have no choice but to go right to Ullmark if we're talking about Swayman. They go hand in hand. So Ullmark, yes, like you said, signing the same AAV of 8.25 million for half the amount of years. He is 6 years older than Swayman, coming in at 31. So 4 years at 8.25. Uh, this is a tough one for me, and I'll tell you for a couple different reasons. The Senators' defense is, and just general team, is not the same as the Bruins playing in front of him. And this kind of speaks for Corpusalo, like you were saying as well. Goaltending is very weird. I very oftentimes compare it to a puzzle, and it's really about a goalie fitting in with a team. So it'll come in the first 10, 15 games to see how well they gel together, Ullmark and the team. But quite frankly, I got to grade this one a bit low. I'm going to go for a 7.9 here, actually. And
Whoa.
I know we haven't had too many dramatically low ratings yet, but
Sub
that is a low
8.
one for us so far. Yeah. And the
Wow.
reason I say this is going back to my previous point of the goalie fitting with the team. Though he's been a great leader so far throughout the preseason in the locker room, and Linus Ullmark is just one hell of a guy. I know he is. We don't know how he fits with them on the ice.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, I don't know how the Senators team is going to be this season. They didn't have too many additions, and quite frankly, it looks like it might be the same product with just a different goalkeeper.
Mhm.
Now, Ullmark is an absolutely outstanding goalie, one of the best in the league right now, but it's all different with a different team in front of you, what you're able to do and do for your team. So I'm sticking with my 7.9, my maybe my lowest grade so far. This doesn't mean I don't love Ullmark. He could still do really well and could be worth this amount of money. But I think this was a little foolish for Ottawa to sign it this early without him even playing a game in their jersey yet. But once again, this is a tough one. I think Ullmark is worth that amount of money, but this was poor timing, I believe, on their part.
Wow. Okay. A sub 8 review. This is where we are going to disagree here, brother. Um, I am actually going to take almost the opposite stance here. I think that this deal is monumental for the program. Think about their
It
franchise.
could be,
And
yeah.
as you said, they're they're kind of unsure what their productivity is going to be this season. I think a lot of people have them fringe on the wild card slash playoff option, maybe right outside looking in. Um,
Yep.
so that plays into it. But when was the last time they really looked strong? Right, it was when they had Eric Carlson in their defense. Sorry, when they had who Craig Anderson in net. There has not been a goalie up in Ottawa since Craig Anderson that has been as good as Ullmark. I am holding firm on that.
True.
He also has won a
True.
Vezina trophy. Now, he won a Vezina
Yep.
in a year similar to the Islanders where they almost could have split it because of how great they were both doing. Ullmark was a freaking beast. Now, again, that comes with the territory and the team in front of him. When you're winning and you have the offense to help, that really is good. That said, Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, Batherson.
Yep.
Some of these players are really Shabbat as well as Sanderson. They're coming into their own. They're coming into that level of play where it's not like, okay, you're no longer young. Now we're expecting more out of you. The other side to this equation is the fact that Ullmark is a lot stronger and bigger of a goalie than the other goalies have been. Corpusalo was the old
Yep.
goalie. He didn't have a great defensive team in front of him. He didn't look great the first game that he had the Bruins in front of him. Again, we'll see in 81 more games. But in the preseason, Ullmark looked awesome. And I have a feeling that actually is a big motivator behind this deal because it was a windmill glove save. Say what you will about exaggeration, but when a goalie's making a game saving play, a windmill save like that, I don't care what team you are, I get hyped for it. But if it's your home team,
Yep.
I would finally be happy and excited about your crease. And if I was an Ottawa fan, I don't think I'd be able to say I was excited about who's in my crease for the last 5 years. And that's why I'm giving this grade a 9.6. And I'm saying this because that
Ooh.
might be my highest rating yet. And the reason I'm giving it a 9.6 is it's not 8 years, it's 4 years. This is already looked at as a okay value, right? You compare it to Swayman, that's pretty strong. Everyone's going to be comparing the two. Next year, the cap goes up. Next year, after that, the cap goes up again. This is a Vezina Trophy winning goalie. He is very well looking to bring this Senators team from fringe playoff into we're a stud playoff team. So I am bullish on the fact that Ullmark is in a new franchise. I'm curious how it'll work because I did like watching those last few years in Buffalo, but that was a whole lot different than his last few years in Boston. So I'm gonna give it a really high rating. I gotta disagree with you on this one. Maybe we're both gonna be wrong. Maybe we're both right.
No, so I do see what you're saying, and I could completely see Ullmark transforming the franchise and helping them take them to that next step of the rebuild. But I, frankly, I don't see the cards playing out. I hope they do for his sake. Once again, he's one of the best goalies. Very happy to have him as a Bruin, and I do believe he has earned this money. But sadly, I don't think it pans out this season. And he is, as I said, 31. So we'll see how this contract plays out year 4, and he's 35 years old. But I do agree with you. I could see your points where he could really help this team take that next step.
Definitely. And you know what? I don't think it's fair this year because your Bruins are still in that top tier Atlantic contending potential. But I think next season we need to have a bet between you and I. Whose value's better? Who's bringing more statistics to the table from a who's fitting better for this value here? Because we can
Yeah.
agree to disagree. We definitely love both goalies here, but I mean these
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be fun to watch, and I know that after the season, maybe we'll have a better understanding of that impact and how it's going to look down the line. But switching gears because we do have more signings. So moving along here, just so we can keep our listeners, locked in. Of course, there's plenty of other content we want to cover here. So next up, it was actually someone who had a PTO, a professional tryout with the Leafs. It was someone that Pans and I and Justin really we knew that this was coming. It was pretty inevitable. But Max Pacioretty, he has been at quite a few teams dealing with quite a few injuries in the last few years. He signed with Toronto, And something I really like about this signing, and I'll turn it over to you for your grade here shortly, but it is only 1 year. He is getting a little older. It's at 873K, 873,770 technically for 1 year. That's under a million. I strongly believe there hasn't been a gear in his game if he can play 20 games minimum, just 20, that he's not valued over a million. So I like this. I also think it's lucrative from a Toronto angle and a player angle because they added a bonus, two bonuses to be exact. Again, this plays into his longevity and health, but if he's able to hit 10 games, he gets another 313K. And if he reaches 35 games, he gets another 313K bonus. Again, incentivizing him to be involved, incentivizing him to stay hungry and play for that team to win. You already have some people taking friendly contracts in Toronto with Giordano and some other people in the mix there. I want to let I'm so bullish on this, being that I know the Leafs have been dealing with tight caps for a long time now. He's a serious veteran presence to have in your locker room, especially when it comes to playoffs. People aren't talking about if the Toronto Maple Leafs are getting to the playoffs. I think that's inevitable. It's now what can we see in the postseason because we've had some issues with them in the past. This guy is someone you want in your locker room come postseason time, without a doubt. So I'm going to give this a grade, and then I want to turn it over to you to hear your thoughts and your grade here, bud. I'm going to give this a really good one. I'm going to give it a 9-1, like your Swayman grade. Reason being, I think it's friendly for the team. I think it's friendly for Max Pacioretty. I think it really is a motivator for him to be even more of a piece to the success and future of the franchise. I think he's going to be leaned on some of these other roles where you don't need a 6 million, 7, $8 million guy on the wing in your second line. He can play on your second line with two other younger studs that are making more, really balance out that middle part of the roster there. But curious what your grades are and how that differs here.
I think this is a great signing for Toronto, and the Bruins fan inside of me hates to say that, but Max Pacioretty is just a couple seasons away from point per game seasons with Vegas. I think this could end up being a really good, sneaky value signing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. If Pacioretty's able to gel well with his line mates, I think he could be over half a point per game, 0.75, and really bring some necessary depth scoring value to the Maple Leafs team. I'm not as crazy high on it. I think this is solid. We'll see how it pans out. I'm just going to go with an 8-4 for this one. Not crazy about it, but yeah, I think this could pan out very well for the Maple Leafs. We'll see how his health plays into it, but good signing overall.
Definitely. We'll see. Hey, the worst case, if it doesn't end up well, it's under a million. What's up, Justin?
If I please correct me if I'm wrong, but was this a signing the Leafs made that brought them within $1 of the cap?
No way. No way.
Was it did they have another one? Or what?
Are they really that tight on cap? I knew they were tight. Let's see. We can check.
I think they're within $1 of the cap space right now.
It's a mix of Pacioretty as well as putting Muzzin on LTIR and sending Matt Murray down, if I'm not wrong, right, Chesley?
There's a
Because
few.
currently Puckpedia has them at negative 5 mil, but I have seen that, Justin, where they're at literally $1.
Well, that is I'm looking at it right now as well. From a Puckpedia stance, there's a lot of people on IR. They're navigating the IR as well as they can with what's going on. Needless to say, I don't know if it's within $1 because sites have different projections here, or $5 or 500,000. But just knowing anything under $1 million is really playing it tight. So if it's $1, $1 million, even a little over, it just goes to show again that it's going to be another year tight. real tight for the Maple Leafs, and really Brad Treliving to handle his cap space. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it works. I know there's talks with about Marner needing to resign. There's talks about some other players um, that are in the mix that are going to be valued at a lot higher than where they're at right now. So I'm curious where that's going to turn into after this season. They do have Matthew Nyes, who comes off his entry level contract, so he's going to need to get paid here after this season. They have Nick Robertson, of course. If Pacioretty sticks around, that's another player, and that's not to mention the Steve Lorentz, Pontus Holmberg, and some of those other pieces on the back end on the blue line that are going to be huge pieces. Like right now, Hakanpää's on their team. They brought him in. Yes, he's injured. He's up for conversation after this year. He's a great defensive defenseman. So a lot of things that they got to figure out in this next season. But I see you wanted to chime in here, Pans. What's going on?
If that is true, that their cap space is down to that low, they currently have a couple guys on LTIR. Mikhail Yarncroc, Dewar, like you said, who all make over $1 million. So for them to be able to come off of LTIR, somebody with about that same amount of cap is going to have to leave. So I could easily see them sending Ryan Reed waivers, or even just like outright.
They're gonna have to do something. Now that you mention that, Pans, that is crazy. Whatever happens this season is gonna be a maze for him to figure out up there. But whatever's gonna happen this off season is gonna be even crazier. John Tavares, Mitch Marner are two massive contracts. I'm sure Tavares coming off a bigger one. Most people would argue the last season or two it's been a little overvalued. That's fine. He's older. He'll probably take a pay cut there. Marner, I do not expect to take a pay cut. I expect him to make more potentially. His caliber of play is there. So really, that job is not easy. We'll just say that, especially in Toronto with how tough it is as a market to play in and how much media scrutiny they face. We will be certainly looking forward to following those updates. But we will move on here. Next signing that we have actually came two signings that are same value, both in regards to kind of player tryouts or professional tryouts that turned into contracts. So first one we're going to cover is Kevin Labanc. Wow, what a great signing! He didn't even sign with the New Jersey Devils, so I know if you all have been listening, we covered Kevin Labanc signing a professional tryout with the New Jersey Devils prior to the preseason. And that was still one of the players that we think is very underrated in the league, and we're looking forward to seeing him potentially crack the roster of the Devils. Well, he actually signed it with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He had an incredible preseason, showed his skill, showed what it takes and what he can bring on a roster that can help him, that can support him, like the Devils were able to in the preseason. He signed for a 1 year, 775K league minimum. I think this is great. I don't see necessarily Columbus Blue Jackets making any type of playoff run or growing to be anything more than a postseason potential. But I think it's a great player to add. He could potentially earn himself a longer term contract. I think from a grading stance, I just can put an A5. It's not groundbreaking. It's not crazy. I know they have the space. He's gonna be a great role to fill. He has wheels, so he's small, quick, shifty, and he's a good righty. So he'll be maybe a replacement for the line A move on the wing there. Curious what your grade is here, bud, and then we'll go into the to Jacob Verana who signed for a similar deal.
Very exciting for the Blue Jackets and for Labanc as well. I don't know if I can remember another time where a player had a PTO with one team. That same team ended up offering him a contract, but he chose to sign with another team.
Yeah, that's
Either
crazy.
way, I think this works out really well for him. He goes to a team where he's able to get more playing time, and I think this works out well for both sides. I'm going to grade this one an 8.4. I think he'll be able to show more of his former self and be able to bring some good depth scoring to Blue Jackets roster. And moving into the next contract, Vrana for the same AAV of 775 in Washington. I think that's a good deal. I think this could work out really well for both of them. Vrana going back to where he started his NHL career. He's still a little somewhat younger at 28. I think he's able to add some much needed depth scoring to this Capitals team. And once again, hopefully he's able to get back to that 20 plus goal scoring that we've been able to see from him in previous seasons. Vrana, I'm going to have to go pretty similar, but a little bit higher with an 8.6. Just happy to see him back in Washington. Hope he's able to get back to his former self.
I love that. I think that's a great take. Jacob Vrana is a special one for me. Um, he's already come out and said how much he appreciates the Washington area, how much he wants to be a Cap, how much he is so thankful for what that was able to do for him earlier on in his career before he left. At this value, I'm gonna grade it an 8.485 for that same reason, just because we don't know. He was coming off the player assistant program, but it's a great value. You said it. He's 28 years old. He's a great winger. He can produce 20 goals, if not more. And they did. We talked about their additions this offseason. They've added Pierre-Luc Dubois. They've added Matt Roy on the back end. They've added Chikrin. They've added Majapane. They've added other pieces, and this guy coming in at under $1 million is to me, it's going to be a steal for them. And it might allow for a guy like him to be on a second or even a first line with Ovi and Pierre-Luc Dubois, Ovi and Strome, to take off that really big, I guess, tag or responsibility that comes with being on that first line, and then make that more balanced middle six, right? So then you're not having Tom Wilson on the first, where maybe he's more complimentary on the second there with Strome or Pierre-Luc Dubois, whoever might end up being center one there. There is a lot of question marks as to the future of the Caps, where they're going to be. I know we talked about whether or not we have them in the playoffs. I do not, just because I see that is a really, really tough division. But I love
Yep.
this. I do love this. Jacob Vrana's really special player. And he's not by any means old. 28 years old is great. I'm firmly in belief that he's going to play through, if not be overvalued, or sorry, undervalued, and deserve a bigger contract after this season. And we'll of course be following that and providing some analysis throughout the season on how his development's going back into the league here. There are two exciting updates with regards to captaincies. As of now, every single team in the NHL has filled their vacancies in the captain spot. So now, and I'm not sure if all alternates have been established or not quite yet. Sometimes teams choose two, sometimes teams choose three, some teams choose home and away. Sometimes there's a fluctuation. For example, the Stars had a number last year that was always fluctuating. The Hawks always did too. But very, very exciting. The Utah Hockey Club named their first ever captain, who got to play last night against the Blackhawks. Looked really great. Looked like he's ready to be their leader. Clayton Keller has been named the first captain of the Utah Hockey Club. I got to hear your take here. I mean, I love this. I think there couldn't have been a better person in my eyes to represent that brand as their captain, wear that C on his chest. And I think that logo looks crispy right now. I know we're going to be changing to potentially the Yetis or something else, but I got to hear your take here because I love this one.
You and me both. I couldn't say it any better myself. Very happy for him. Couldn't be going to a better guy. Very excited to see what he's able to do this season with the added youngsters, the very skilled forwards, and Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther. Hopefully, they're able to really gel well and provide some scoring for this Utah club. But absolutely super excited for Keller.
Definitely. I think him and Genther is going to be fun. And then they brought in Sergachev, who, honestly, Genther looked great last night. Sergachev looked like he was getting acclimated to that team. But I'll tell you one thing: there was one little skirmish in the corner with Clayton Keller. It wasn't a big hit. It was just a little skirmish. And boy, oh boy, was it fun to watch Genther, Sergachev, and company just jump in, protecting their guy, protecting their captain, backing him up,
Yep.
which is what you need to see. He's a guy who's definitely the future of your franchise. Mix that with Dylan Genther. They could be a dynamic duo that'll be exciting to watch. And not to mention the Logan Cooley in there, too. So, the next captaincy, which fills the last team here that had a vacancy, was Seattle Kraken. They have named Jordan Eberle their captain. So I think this is a great move. There's some back and forth. I think there were some people looking for Matty Beniers to be wearing that C. I know this is one of those years where we're looking for a bigger, maybe a little bit of a more bounce back year from him. Because after that freshman year or rookie year, he had a bit of a sophomore slump, as some call it. That said, Eberle, great winger. He has incredible experience up in Edmonton, a long time, Islander as well. Since he's gone to Seattle, he's done nothing but produce and be a strong leader. I know Adam Larson was another name in that conversation that could have been in there. I know they just brought in Montour this offseason. So a lot of great, great players. They have Vince Dunn. So their blue line's filling out. I like Eberle as an older player on that roster taking the C. I do see maybe Beniers down the line wearing it. Who knows? But curious your thoughts here. I know you and I growing up, in the eastern side of the league, and you being a Boston fan, you're probably rooting against the Islanders a lot and rooting against Eberle. But you can't help but respect his game. His shot is pretty filthy at times, and I like this for them for sure.
Absolutely love Jordan Eberle. I think this is a great captaincy for the Seattle Kraken. Eberle is a stand-up player. I don't know how many 20-goal seasons he's had throughout his career, but as you said, absolutely great shot, an even better leader, better teammate on the ice. So I think this is a great move for the Kraken.
Mm. Definitely. Um, well, we'll see how all of these captaincies kind of fill in. I know we talked about Nick Foligno and some others that have filled
Yeah.
some roles and vacancies there. Looking forward to following all these captains. They're all great leaders, and they earn their right to wear the C without a doubt. Moving on, because we do have a lot to cover. There have been some injuries. We want to add to that sad list that we discussed last episode. The preseason is unforgiving when it comes to the injuries. A lot of people are going down, and it really stinks to see because listening to Nathan McKinnon on the podcast here with Spit and Chicklets, it sometimes it's disheartening for the players. They don't know, oh my God, my season could be over with by me going out and playing a preseason game. It's glorified practice. Yeah, you're wearing your team jersey and your game jersey, but this game doesn't matter. And you got guys like Line A that are out very long term, that obviously could have been avoided had he not played or had he not been in that situation. So the player that went down in the preseason before the start of the year is unfortunately their first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini. I don't think this is anything serious, so I do expect him back somewhat soon, as opposed to 2, 4, 5, 6 months. But I gotta say, it never is good to see one of your most valuable assets, one of your biggest future pieces go down like that, especially into his first year. He hasn't even gotten to play that first regular season game. I don't know. I'm curious if you have anything to add here, bud, but sad to see that. It did feel weird when he came. I saw the video. It was kind of funky how he fell into the boards. But we do, of course, wish him all the best and a speedy recovery there.
So very, very sad to hear that. I was quite excited to see Macklin start to play in those teal uniforms this season. And as it's said many a times by somebody we follow and we respect in the hockey world, Byron Bader over at hockeyprospecting.com, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old seasons are some of your most important seasons for development. So I really hope he's not out too long because I truly wish the best for him in his career. So I hope this injury is not as serious.
Definitely. Well, I think the whole hockey world's kind of gasped a little when that happened, and we're obviously
Yeah.
fingers crossed everything looks good. We know that the Sharks might not be a playoff team by any means. Shit, they might be actually a top five pick again this season. But you want to see Will Smith. You want to see Macklin Celebrini cooking together. You want to see that youth really starting to grow, really build that foundation up while they're living with the Marlows and the Joe Thorntons. And I'm sure living with Joe Thornton will help the recovery. I'm sure there's a lot of different things that he might have instilled in his career to help him recover and kind of feel a little better throughout injuries and soreness and whatever's going on that maybe Macklin can, of course, learn from. So we'll follow that and give you an update once we hear when he's back. Next piece of news is a bit interesting. There's been a lot of people put on waivers. We're not going to go through the list, but there is one that stuck out to all of us. I think everyone around the hockey community was a bit shocked on this one. And the reason I'm going to say it is because I just think it was a weird timing, right? So Pierre Engvall was just signed last July, so a little over a year ago, to a $21 million 7-year contract. So three AAV, $3 million AAV, a little under a year and a half after that, he gets put on waivers. So he's going on waivers with quite a lot of time left in his contract. I believe it was 18, if I'm correct, $18 million. 6 years left on his contract at 18 million a year, or 18 million total, so 3 million a year. That's a weird one. You and I have our takes on Lou Lamoriello and what's been going on there. Everyone, yeah, he's had controversy when he left the Devils. For everyone was saying, "Oh, he's ruined this franchise." There's been a lot of interesting takes on what he's done in the Islanders organization to build them to be a cup contending team potentially. I don't see that this year by any means from them. I think Sorokin's a big question mark for them this year. Hopefully, he can get back healthy and show his strong prowess. But I gotta hear your thoughts on this, buddy, because this one's a weird one. I know he's a talented player. We love to watch Pierre Engvall play. It's
Yep.
just to me like I don't know from a GM lens. This is like kind of like tripping over yourself here. You're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, right? Like to me, it just didn't seem right. And I'm curious what happens if he'll get the call back up or what. But I don't know. Anything you'd add here, bud? This one was weird for sure.
You couldn't put it any better. There's no other way to describe it but weird. And quite frankly, it hurts me to think about. Like you said, $3 million really is not a crazy cap hit. So I'm quite confused how poor a play they must have seen or what was going on. But this truly doesn't make sense to me. I know they're a little tight on the cap. That I believe, like you said, is due to Lou Lamoriello signing everyone, and I mean just about everyone, to a bit more than they're actually worth. So you're not able to sign to keep everybody. Once again, this is quite a confusing one to me. Engvall is a very fun player to watch. He's great defensively in the transition, and he is able to impact in the offensive zone as well. Great bottom six guy who can actually play on all four lines, as we've seen in his career. But this is, yeah, no other way to describe it but weird. I hope he's able to be claimed by another team because he's definitely a player that deserves to play in the NHL. And once again, not a crazy cap hit. I think there's a couple teams out there that could use his services this season. So excited to see. I wouldn't say excited, but we'll see how this plays out for the season. I don't know what to think about this one.
Yeah, it is a funky one. You got a lot of older players on that roster. Anders Lee, 34, Brock Nelson, 32, Kyle Palmieri, 33. Now they brought in Duclair, and maybe that was a justification behind it. Who the hell knows? We'll be following this one. It was a funky one for sure. But moving on, there was another person who was sent down actually. There are some exciting news coming out of Philly that we're excited to cover, but another player that we talked about the last few pods, Yaroslav Askarov. This was another interesting one. Didn't really make sense for me. It sounds like he did play up to what he thought his caliber of play was. He was under the notion, and he mentioned this as the reason he left Nashville. He wanted to be in the NHL. He wanted the ability to take starting time and play and play and play and plug in those hours and reps to be considered a strong potential starter, if not a 1A, 1B guy. The Sharks brought him in, right? They traded for him. It was a great trade. We graded it very well. The concern was, is he going to be playing? They have Blackwood, they have Vanacek, and they have Askarov. Well, he was sent down to their minors, so he's going to be actually playing with their minor team, which is just interesting. To me, I don't get me wrong. I get Blackwood, I get Vanacek. Um, sorry, splitting the time there, 1A, 1B, kind of seeing who might take the nod and make more minutes than the other. But to me, if I was Askarov, I'd be looking at myself in the mirror like, what was that? Was this me? Did I not step it up? Now, there wasn't anything in the preseason that stood out to me as like, this guy needs to be put back down to the A. Remember, the Sharks are in the franchise spot that they're in, where they're not by any means expected to be beating Edmonton and Toronto and Boston and the Panthers night in and night out. But I just think this is weird. I think this is literally exactly where he left off in the Predators organization. I mean, he's still young. We do love his potential. We do love his ceiling. Just a weird one for sure there. So we'll be following that.
The weird part to Askarov is he was actually dealing with a knee injury throughout the preseason. So the way I'm
Oh,
looking at this is more of a conditioning stint. He got no preseason action. None of their 6 games he played. So I think since this is the first time in a few years that the Sharks have a couple of goalies that they can lean on in the NHL, I think they're using this time to get Askarov back up to speed for the time
okay.
that he missed in the preseason. And plus, since their AHL team, the Barracuda, is right around the corner, they're able to keep an easy tab on him. I can see how this is seen as a weird move after trading for him and trading a pretty hefty fee. But I truly believe this is just a conditioning stint to get him back up to pace.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's news to me. And now that I think about it, that makes total sense, brother. I mean, you're looking at it.
Yeah.
You're looking at one of the few AHL teams that share the same city as their home NHL programs. So you're right. Maybe this is just a quick, hey, bring him up. We're fine. We can bring him in as a third goalie. By no means do they need to rush Vanacek or Blackwood out because both of them potentially could make a step in their games because we've seen great
Yep.
play out of both of them. Believe it or not, both in New Jersey. So we'll see if they can come back to that player caliber at some point. And if not, it does
And
look like
both still young.
Askarov is there. Yeah, and as we know, Askarov has dominated the A. So we'll
Oh,
see.
dominated.
We'll see how long that comes. But the exciting news out of Philadelphia, you want to cover that one, bud?
Ooh. Oh, I would absolutely love to. Big news out of Philly. The Flyers not only will be having the big name rookie and Matvey Michkov on their opening night roster, but they will have their most recent first round draft pick taken with the 13th overall pick, Jet Luchenko, making his NHL debut this season, breaking the record for youngest Flyers player at 18 years and 51 days. I I'm very excited for this. I know living in the Philly area, this definitely hits a little bit harder. I'm excited for the Flyers to take that next step forward and extremely happy for Luchenko to earn a spot through his dedication and hard work in camp. And he did like every player sets out to do, and he left them no choice but to have him on the team. So you love to hear that from a young guy, and I hope he's able to stick with the big club throughout the whole season. But very happy to hear it.
I think you said it best there. He did what every player dreams of doing, right? Getting the opportunity and seizing that opportunity. He made them
Yeah.
make no other decision but we need to bring this guy on. I do agree. The Flyers have this next step in their game, next step in their franchise. I don't by any means think that the Philly fan base is like, we're going to win a cup this year. But I can tell you right now, they're hungry. They're hungry for production and excitement because last season they saw it. Everyone thinks it's a fluke. I firmly disagree. That team, that coach, that program, that youth development, and that deep roster is there. It is not a fluke. They bring in a guy like Mitchkov. They continue to have guys like Tippett step into their game and fully take on the role as strong leader on the team. You have so many other pieces like Cam York as well as Sanheim falling into their roles and consistently growing. Drysdale is I've been seeing left and right all these interesting takes on how his season is going to go. I love, love the Flyers' future here. Chet Luchenko is by no means someone that is expected to put up 30 goals, 40 goals his rookie season. But I would look to see him on a line with Couturier potentially, on a line with Mitchkov maybe. Not maybe to start, but I imagine the Flyers are going to want to get him on a line with skill that's going to bring him out, right? Going to bring that skill out of him. I did see the projected lineup for their opening night. It's gonna be filthy. It's awesome. Morgan Frost at center with Owen Tippett and Mitch Kov. That is going to be one of the most exciting lines in the entire league to watch because it's all young players, all knowingly strong production and knowingly can be scary players to play against at their best game. And I don't care if you're a top line player who's been a top line player in this league for years. Watch out. Owen Tippett's one of the fastest, if not the fastest skaters in the league. You got Morgan Frost, who's really getting comfortable with his stick handling and two-way game. And then we all know Mitch Kov and his incredible capabilities. And that's just their first line. That's excluding Konechny. That's excluding Couturier. That's excluding some of their other offensive pieces that, you know what? I think Chet Luchenko's in great hands. I'm looking forward to seeing how the relationship between him and Torts and Mitch Colvin Torts goes and develops. But for all of our buddies who are Flyers fans and out in the Philly market, big fan base there, very exciting news for Chet Luchenko. Great player there. So switching gears, want to talk about a situation that came about. It's in regards to yet another goalie signing, believe it or not. This comes out of New York. There has been a contract offered to Igor Shesterkin. Now we've talked about this for a little bit. He is looking for a monumental signing. He's looking to be the highest paid goalie from an AAV perspective ever. Very few people would agree or disagree that he doesn't deserve that because I think you and I both think likely or like-minded that he is that caliber of player. He is looked at as no less than a freaking brick wall in net. But it looks like earlier this week he turned down an 8-year by 11 million AAV. That comes out to $88 million, 11 million AAV. He turned that down, and we heard that breaking from Kevin Weeks, another insider we love, have followed for years now, and we consistently love what he brings to the table from news stance. But I'm really curious if this is the case and he doesn't like this. What do we think in his next contract is? And I'm just curious what your prediction is because I think you and I were chatting about this. I think maybe he goes higher AAV, lower term. But curious what you'd add there and if anything differs on your end. But weird one, right?
Once again, another weird one. I completely see what you're saying. It's hard in my mind for a guy like Shesterkin who's 28, so he would be signing until he's 36 years old for that same 11 million. That's a tough one to turn down. But the other way that I look at this is Shesterkin may be saying, hey, if an original six team in the New York Rangers is going to offer me this 8 years, 11 mil, what else can I get on free agency? So that's another thing that he could possibly be thinking about is just really trying to break the bank here. Yeah, if a team like the Rangers is able to offer that, there's definitely a few, if not a lot more teams that can offer more for maybe even more years.
Hmm. Definitely. I actually read something. Oh, what's that? We got our producer Justin chiming in. What's going on here, bud?
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up that I think it's also like a percentage of the cap here. Shesterkin year in and year out, just an absolutely elite goalie. Never have to question whenever he's playing. Um, so I think I don't know. You look at what Swayman just got, and you have to ask yourself, like, Shesterkin can almost certainly get more. And to the question of higher AAV, lower term, I just don't think a team's gonna want to pay a guy that much without having that term. I think that they're gonna want to lock him down for basically the rest of his prime in his career. Um, and yeah, that's basically all I got to say there.
No, no, I like that. That's a good take, man. Like
Yep.
it is tough from a GM's perspective. You'd rather sign maybe a longer term, lesser AAV to give you more wiggle room. Now, as we both, all three of us know, and everyone listening, because we've talked about it numerous times, this cap is going up, which certainly helps. I heard a few things in regards to the New York Rangers and their cap, right? So we know that Truba is a topic of conversation because his contract is very high. We also understand that Chris Drury came into the mix as a leader in that franchise and GM relatively recently in the last few years, and he didn't necessarily build this program. So I'm curious. I know there's been talks about potentially trying to get movement from Truba to clear up some cap. I don't know if that'll add to the value that Shesterkin brings, but for this season, Truba's here. So I think this might be one of those seasons where the Rangers really need to be in cup or bust mode. They need to be in the cup basically. And if they're not making the cup this year, I do see a lot of transitions happening in the roster, right? There are some players that are going to be up for contract that deserve money, and players like maybe Truba who might hurt that for that franchise or might bring down the available funds to spend on those players. Just looking at their cap right now, you have Capo Caco, Lafreniere, you have Matt Rempe, and then that's just their front line. You have Lindgren, Keandre Miller. These are all people that are going to need to be signed this offseason. So tight cap. By no means do they have enough room right now to sign all those players, especially when you add Shesterkin's value next season. Now, he is unrestricted free agent, so I do expect them to create a deal and come to one this season. I don't think Chris Drury wants anything to do with playing him on the market to just give away for free. But a part of me thinks from a Shesterkin lens, as Pans mentioned, he is a little older than Swayman. Maybe he wants the 3, 4, 5 year term at a higher AAV just to see, hey, I've done 3 years as a brick wall for this program. Yes, they have Fox. Yes, they have Keandre Miller. Yes, they have Lindgren and studs in front of me to help this franchise get to the cup. But if they can't win in 2, 3 years, that's his option if he did end up getting a lower AAV, hypothetically, to then make a decision. Do I want to stick it out here or do I want to move? Or what can we do here? As opposed to gridlocking himself another 3, 4 in New York. Maybe they stick in that contender status, maybe they dip, but at the end of that 8 years, he's looking at himself and his value and what he might be able to bring to the table of a contender, maybe a little less than he would be 3, 4 years prior when he might still be in his prime. So really, really goofy one. We all have some interesting takes on this one. Going to be fun to watch. I think inevitably he deserves a large contract AAV. No one's going to argue he doesn't. So we'll be following that one. Just because, for the sake of time, we want to keep pushing. There is a lot of coverage. But over the past weekend, there was the start of the season, right? Friday started the season out in Prague. The NHL had a very exciting series with the Buffalo Sabres and New Jersey Devils. New Jersey Devils. Briefly, we'll just go through this game. They looked very strong. I will say Markstrom looked really great. He looked very, very great. I mean, he had one of those game-saving saves. In fact, potentially a save of the year candidate in the first freaking game. What a save. Love to see it. I know Paul Cotter, a player that people were not expecting to kind of shine in that role, I should say, scored 2 goals. Buffalo did not look that great. And I know we've had talks about Lindy Ruff coming into that franchise. I think a lot of people are like, Lindy? That's who they chose? So we'll see. I don't have them in the playoffs. I really hope they can. I think they might be one of those teams that ekes their way in barely. But I did like to mention that Devin Levi did stand out in that second game. He kind of kept them afloat, kind of keeping the Sabres in it. Um, I like Devin Levi. I know that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen might have been a little decent or a little shaky on that first game, but that's still a young tandem. Still gonna fall into their place. Hold firm. I think their defense will get better. Anything you'd add on that game? Any takes that you had from watching that one, bud?
No, I think you pretty much got it right there. Um, Good games on both sides. The Devils looked a little bit better. Markstrom really was looking like that guy for the Devils
Mm-hmm.
to help them take that step forward in the rebuild. So very happy he could help bring them to the playoffs with his recent performance. He looked real tough. Um, yeah, I think, like you said, it was a great coaching matchup. You got the new guy in New Jersey, Sheldon Keefe, versus the old guy, previous coach, Lindy Ruff. But yeah, no, they were a great way to start out the NHL season. Very, very excited that we're able to get some more games in European countries to help grow the game and the sport, especially playing in such a great country like the Czech Republic or Czechia. Sorry.
Mm. No, I agree. We'll see. We'll be following both teams. I know I have Markstrom on my fantasy hockey team. I'm expecting some good things out of New Jersey this year. I have them as one of my favorites to be cup contenders. I actually have them winning the Met division. So, anyways, I know we had some other updates out of Philly with regards to Alexei Kolosov. We covered a little bit of his situation last episode. I want to turn it to you, buddy, to go into some of the updates we have and news from the last time we had discussion about him.
So Kolosov, as we previously reported, is in Philly with the team for training camp. Now he has come to an agreement, him, his agent, Briere, and the Flyers team, that if he is not with the Philadelphia Flyers on the NHL roster by the end of October, that he will be returning to the KHL to play in Dynamo Minsk. Um, I I think this was a necessary agreement to get him over for training camp, and quite frankly, I think it would be a little foolish not to play the young 22-year-old goaltender um, for the Philadelphia Flyers. I believe he's part of the rebuild, this next step, the future generation of the Flyers, and I think they could be potentially shooting themselves in the foot by playing this incorrectly.
Oh
No
yeah,
disrespect to Samuel Ersson, but I truly believe the Flyers should look to move Ersson at the at the trade deadline, and really move forward with Fedotov and Kolosov.
yeah. I think that kind of reaffirms my take from last episode, right? Like I we know how great Fedotov's ceiling is. He's a huge, massive brick wall. Kolosov is looked at to be potentially even better in net. They have very high ceilings. I would love to see the Russian duo man that crease. Sam Ersson did surprise some people last year. I'm not saying he's not valuable. He certainly could get some value on the market. But as you look to a rebuild, I don't necessarily think Sam Ersson is your guy. Maybe he proves us wrong. Again, that defense is getting better. It's stronger. There's some depth and some actual vet presence there now. with EJ going there. I'm just looking at it from a holistic view to make sure you're not ruining a relationship. We talked about the importance and really the impressiveness of Briere being able to manage Fedotov's situation with the Russian military sanction that he had to face and the time he had to basically plug for Russia before he was even able to play hockey, let alone come back North America side. And then why everyone kind of slept on Mitchkov in the draft. It was like, oh, I don't know if we're ever going to see him, so why would we take a risk? Well, Briere was playing chess while they were playing checkers on that note, and I loved it. And I think Philly benefited big on both of those situations. But I don't think it's going to bode well for them if he does end up going back to the K. Who knows how that's going to look? Who knows how long it might be before he comes back? Who knows if they're going to want to go through that process again? I don't know. Again, with Sam Earson playing this year, and probably taking a number of the minutes away from Fedotov to start, I would love to see Kolosov get the nod before October, stay out here. Easier said than done. Maybe it's an Askarov situation while they figure out what to do with the other two. And they're just kind of keeping him down there for knowing, because if I'm Briere, I'm thinking, okay, that's a short term situation to keep you safe over here, but we're going to get you set up. I know we talked about their goalie pipeline with Bjarnson as well. So they are in a beautiful, beautiful future hands and crease. It's just a matter of managing it right and maybe giving each person that opportunity to shine. And some will, some might not, but really looking forward to following that, as well as Fedotov and Ursin this season. One thing that is very interesting to note, this comes out of the NHL and NHL Players Association. There were some conversations around, as we talked about and debated with the preseason. There's no, by any means, consensus on whether they're going to extend, shorten, make any type of restrictions or any type of agreed upon consensus across the league, not necessarily in writing about who's playing what in the preseason, what vets are playing to avoid injuries. But there was a note that was interesting, reported by yet another insider we love to follow and have been for decades, Pierre LeBrun. He reported that there have been chats and conversations from the CBA in regards to reducing the preseason to 4 games and potentially adding 2 games to the regular season to make it 84 games. Now, the NBA has and NHL have always had 82 games here, but there's some intricacies and really cool detail behind why this would actually work out, other than just extending the season. Now, how it's broken down with 84 games in your season, each and every team then, instead of having it a little differently, which is how it's at now, would have the ability to play 4 games against each division opponent. So that is what they're trying to do right now, but there's some interesting intricacies behind that right now, because it's a little less than a perfect fit for all the games they want to fit here. But an 84 game season allows you to do that. So it allows you to play all of your in division rivals and opponents 4 times. Then there's going to be 3 games potentially that would allow 3 games against other division within conference. So, like, if we were the Flyers, because we were on that situation, we would be playing everybody in the Metro Division 4 times a year, which is great. On the Atlantic side, there would be 3 games each. So you'd be playing the Panthers 3 times. You'd be playing Detroit 3 times. You'd be playing some of those other franchises 3 times, and then it still allows for that 2 game against every other team across the other conference. So to me, I think this is great. I think the note was with 82 games, there are 2 division opponents you can only play 3 times. So I I think this could be a great way to potentially manage the injury situation that's been going on in the preseason. Really put emphasis on that last game of preseason, and also put emphasis from a holistic view of you get to see every single team and you get to play them in a normal, regular time around the season. And I just think that from an organization stance and a scheduling, I think that's great. I don't know. Not much to add there, buddy, but I thought it was an interesting piece of news, and when Pierre LeBrun posts anything, we're always listening. So, just a curious note there. Um, but moving on, there was some interesting news that also dropped. Um, I thought it was very funny that the concessions were released. There's not many concessions that are announced across any NHL program. You didn't see when Vegas or Seattle came about that they were like, oh, this is what a hot dog's going to cost. But it was a slight brag, some would say an awesome brag, and I think a lot of other sports fans across the entire globe are a little jealous of the people in Utah because the Utah Hockey Club has just released their fan friendly concessions menu. And this is going to be available for not only the Utah Hockey Club games, but also for the Jazz games. And it comes out to like $2 a bottle of water, $3 for popcorn, hot dogs, nachos. I mean, I don't know about you, buddy, but every single time I'm going to a game for chicken tendies, it's $30 with a drink. So like to me, this is freaking awesome. It's enough for me to want to fly to Utah this year just for the damn concessions.
I also think this is great, and this is a very smart business decision by the Utah management to really try and get more fans into the stadium by having these affordable concessions. I mean, that's one of the few disadvantages that people point out to going to games is having to cost an arm and a leg just for some food or drink. So I think this is great for fans. This will get more fans into the stadium, and overall, I would like to see more teams in all professional sports kind of adapt this fan-friendly price menu.
Oh yeah, definitely. So hey, we'll try and get our butts in Utah so we can watch a game live. I think that'll be very enjoyable. I will say that is wrapping it up for us here today. There are some exciting updates. So before we adjourn, we want to talk about kind of what to look forward to here in the coming episodes. We are changing our model and outline here. So now that we're in the thick of it, we are really looking forward to diving into in season weekly reports for everyone here. Follow our Instagram page. We're going to be producing a first line and second line of the week, breaking down top center, right wing, left wing, defenseman, goalie, and even top coaches on the first line and second line of each week, just to follow who's been doing what, who's been playing well this last week in their few matchups, and really kind of break it down from that. We moving forward, our podcast episodes are going to be covering a little different outline. There will be, of course, the classic news, updates, drama around the league and hockey world, but something we look forward to reporting on a regular basis is a prospect report to kind of break down everyone across the globe developmentally in all of these different junior leagues, whether it be in Canada in the CHL or all the European leagues, even the KHL, and we'll be keeping you, in the know about everything you need to know about everyone coming up in the hockey world to potentially make their step up into the National League. But there will be a segment that we're going to be introducing that'll have us talk about goalies of the week, defenders of the week, forwards of the week, and coaches of the week. So it's really going to be kind of coexisting with that report we're going to be posting on Instagram. I want to emphasize how exciting this is going to be for all three of us here and the Cap Wizard family to really get into. This is our first season here with you all, and we couldn't be more excited for the future ahead. But on top of that, because we've been getting so many recommendations and questions about this from our fan base, there have been a lot of inquiries about us bringing in some bold takes or some betting advice and betting strategies and takes. There will be a contest that we run. Both Pans and myself and our producer Justin may be hopping in here as well, where we're going to be giving you a take to kind of sleep on, potentially bet on in the coming week. And we're going to be ranking them over the season so you can keep tabs and give shit to Chess or Pans for being close, being terrible, being great at what their recommendations are. You please flood our DMs with any feedback you have. We hope that we help your bets if you do end up moving forward with any of them. I do want to turn it over to you all. Before we wrap up, I got to give my hot take, bold take for this week. It's not going to be a betting odds by any means, but my take actually revolves around San Jose. So I'm going to just have a prediction, and that's that we know Celebrini's out, but my prediction is that Will Smith, the young star, will be having an assist in his NHL debut, at least 1 point. And with that, I do also believe they will be coming home with a win. So in his debut, I do see them bringing home a win there. Curious what your thoughts are, Pans, and what takes you would bring there. Pans, you want to take it over first?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my bold take for the week. Hmm.
Justin, do you have one?
Yeah, I mean, y'all are looking for some hot takes. I'm gonna give you a hot take here. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 3-point game against New Jersey. I just like him being lined up to Ovi. I think it's gonna revitalize his career a little bit. Help him hit the Gretzky goal, probably by the trade deadline. And yeah, so I think 3 points for good old Pierre. That's gonna be my hot take this week.
Okay, so I'm writing this down so we can keep tabs. We got Justin coming in hot with a big rebound year for Pierre-Luc Dubois, starting off his year with 3 point game against the New Jersey Devils this week. Okay, and my take is that Will Smith will have an assist or at least 1 point in his first game. Very, very exciting. We'll definitely be following this for everyone to kind of keep tabs on. But sorry, that first game will be against the Blues, so that'll be Will Smith with one apple or 1 point against the against the St. Louis Blues, and I do believe that the Sharks are going to win that game. So, Pans, hopefully you had some time to create yours. Any bold take that you would put out there for this upcoming week?
So I don't know about bold take, but I'll give my first try at some betting advice. Once again, if you take this advice, that's on you. I'm going for
That's not a good
Brock's
start.
favorite on Sunday against Winnipeg for a point, with the Wild coming out on top as well. Once again,
Wow.
that's mine for the week. Um, Sunday night game, Minnesota Winnipeg. Look for a Brock Faber point and the Wild win.
You know what? I think the most realistic out of this one might be Panzers, but it will be fun to watch. I think Pierre Luc Dubois has it in him. I sure as hell
Yep.
know Will Smith does too. So we'll be
Oh yeah.
following it. But we'll be covering next week's episode. We'll be covering the in-season outline, incorporating some new segments. We're going to be bringing our producer Justin on here more and more. He is so crucial to how this entire operation works. He is, we'll call him the glue of the Cap Wizard family here. So we're really happy to be having him on here with us. We'll be keeping tabs each and every week on some bold takes. So we'll be judging each other based off of that, how bad we were, how good we were. Hopefully, if you take any bets behind all of these takes, that they come to fruition. And if not, well, you didn't hear it from us. Other than that, boys, much love. I'm looking forward to it, to getting into it with you this first season. We got a lot of things coming out. We got some in-game or live game experiences the team is preparing to go to this year. We're looking forward to interacting with some fans. Please, please, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter, as we will be reporting regularly. And we do have our podcast posted on every platform you could possibly need when it comes to podcasts. So looking forward to producing this one. And really, everyone should buckle up. We got an exciting season ahead, and we're just getting started. So if there's any interesting recommendations, any takes that you'd want us to share on air, any questions you have, feel free to share, DM us. But without further ado, we can call it for today, boys. we'll chat it up as soon as we can. But peace and love.
A pleasure as always. Great talking with you. And until next week.